It started with a joke. At least that's what I told myself, the kind of joke you laugh off at first. But later, when you're lying awake in the dark, it keeps echoing in your head like something wasn't right. That night felt normal. Too normal. We were sitting at the dinner table. Just the two of us. The soft glow of the overhead light cast warm shadows across the room. Plates half empty, the quiet hum of the refrigerator in the background. Everything felt calm on the surface, but something underneath it all felt off. I couldn't explain it at first. Maybe it was the way she avoided eye contact, or how she kept checking her phone, even when there were no notifications. Or maybe it was just that feeling, the one you get when someone you love starts becoming a stranger. I tried to ignore it. Long day? I asked, forcing a small smile. She nodded quickly. Yeah, just tired. Short answers. No follow-up? No warmth. That wasn't her. Not the woman I married. We used to talk for hours about everything, about nothing. Now it felt like every conversation had an invisible timer ticking down to silence. Still, I didn't push. Not yet. After dinner, we moved into the living room. She sat on one side of the couch, scrolling through her phone again. I sat on the other side, pretending to watch TV, but my eyes kept drifting toward her, toward the distance, toward the space that hadn't always been there. I shifted closer, not too obvious. Just enough. She noticed. Of course she did. She always noticed everything, for a brief second. I thought she might lean in too, but she didn't. Instead, she locked her phone, placed it on the table, and let out a small, awkward laugh, and that's when she said it. No intimacy tonight. She said it casually, almost playfully, but there was something behind it, something I couldn't quite place. I blinked, caught off guard, then chuckled lightly. Wow. Okay. Straight to the point. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then she added, Ask my sister. I froze. At first, I thought I heard her wrong. Wait. What? I asked, half laughing, trying to make sense of it, but she didn't explain. She just stood up, grabbed her phone, and walked toward the bedroom like she hadn't just dropped something completely insane into the room. No. Clarification. No, I'm kidding. Nothing. Just silence. And suddenly, the room felt colder. I sat there for a long time, staring at the blank TV screen. Her words replayed in my head again and again. Ask my sister. What kind of joke was that? Who even says something like that? And more importantly, why? Her sister had been staying with us for about 3 weeks now, temporary. She said she just needs some time, my wife had explained. Things have been rough for her. I didn't question it. I welcomed her into our home. Tried to make her comfortable. She was quiet, polite, kept mostly to herself, but there were moments. Moments that didn't sit right, late-night conversations behind closed doors, sudden silence whenever I walked into a room. Quick glances exchanged between them like there was something I wasn't supposed to know. At the time, I brushed it off. I trusted my wife. I never had a reason not to. Until tonight. That one sentence changed everything. I turned off the TV and headed to the bedroom. She was already in bed, facing the other side, pretending to sleep, or maybe she really was. I couldn't tell anymore. I lay down beside her, leaving a small gap between us. It felt bigger than it was, bigger than the bed, bigger than the room. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing. Was it sarcasm? Was she testing me? Was she trying to hurt me? Or worse, was she serious? I turned slightly, looking at her back. Hey, I whispered. No response. I didn't get that joke. I added quietly, still nothing, just slow, steady breathing. Maybe she didn't want to talk, or maybe she didn't know how. Either way, the silence said more than words ever could. Hours passed. Sleep never came. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, heard her voice. Ask my sister. It didn't make sense, and yet it felt intentional, like she wanted me to do something, like she was waiting to see what I would do around 2 a.m. I couldn't take it anymore. I carefully got out of bed, trying not to wake her. The house was dark, wrapped in that deep, quiet stillness that only exists in the middle of the night. I stepped into the hallway, and that's when I saw it. Her sister's door slightly open, a faint light glowing from inside. I stopped. Walking. My heart started beating faster. This was wrong. I Knew it. Every instinct in me said to turn around. Go back to bed. Forget everything, but something else. Something stronger. Pushed me forward. Not desire. Not curiosity. Something deeper. The need for answers. Because whatever was happening, it wasn't normal, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I took a slow step closer, then another. The wooden floor creaked softly beneath my feet. I paused, listening. No movement. No sound. Just silence. And that dim light, I reached the door. My hand hovered in the air for a moment. This was the point of no return. If I knocked, I was stepping into something I might not be able to walk away from, but if I didn't, I'd spend the rest of the night and maybe the rest of my life wondering. So I knocked. Softly. Barely loud enough to be heard. For a second, nothing happened. Then, come in. Her voice. Calm. Steady. Almost like she had been expecting me. My chest tightened. I slowly pushed the door open, and there she was. Sitting on the edge of the bed, awake, looking straight at me. Not surprised. Not confused. Just waiting. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just a joke. This was something else. Something bigger. Something that was about to change everything I thought I knew about my marriage, and suddenly, I wasn't sure I was ready for the truth. If you enjoyed this love story and want to see what happens next, make sure to like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments. What would you do in this situation? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I stepped inside. Slowly. Carefully. Like I had just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. The door clicked shut behind me, and the sound echoed louder than it should have in the quiet room. She didn't move. She didn't flinch. She just looked at me. Calm, composed, like this moment had already played out in her mind 100 times. You came, she said softly. Not surprised, not confused. Certain. That one sentence sent a chill down my spine. I frowned slightly, my voice low. Why wouldn't I? She tilted her head just a little, studying my face like she was searching for something. Most men wouldn't, she replied. I let out a quiet breath, trying to steady myself. Most men aren't told by their wife to ask her sister something like that. There was a pause, a long one, the kind that stretches just enough to make everything uncomfortable. Then she stood up. Slowly. Not in a threatening way, but not casually either. Measured. Intentional. She walked past me and gently closed the door completely this time, pressing it shut until it clicked again. That sound. It felt final. I turned toward her. Okay, what's going on? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked to the small lamp beside her bed and dimmed it slightly. The room softened into a warm, low glow, intimate, but not in the way I expected, more like serious. Honest. Heavy. She didn't explain anything, did she? She asked. I shook my head. No, she just said it like it was a joke, and walked away. Her lips pressed together, and for the first time, I saw something shift in her expression. Not confidence. Not control. Concern. She shouldn't have said it like that, she murmured. Then why did she? I asked, a little sharper than I intended. She looked at me again. This time, there was no calm mask. Just truth, because she doesn't know how to talk to you anymore. That hit me harder than I expected. I blinked. What does that mean? It means, she said gently, your wife feels like she's losing you. Silence, the kind that makes your ears ring. I let out a small, disbelieving laugh. Losing me? I'm right there. I come home every night. Physically? She interrupted softly. Her words cut through mine like they had been waiting for the right moment, but not emotionally. I didn't respond, not because I didn't want to, but because something inside me knew she might be right. She's been trying to reach you, her sister continued, in her own way, but every time it feels like she's talking to a wall. That's not true, I said quickly, but even as the words left my mouth, they felt weak. Uncertain. She stepped a little closer, not too close. Just enough to make sure I was listening. When was the last time you really talked to her? She asked. Not about bills. Not about work. Not about what's for dinner. I opened my mouth to answer and then stopped, because I didn't have one, not a real one. Days blurred into weeks. Weeks into months, conversations became routines. Did you eat? How was work? I'm tired. That was it. That was everything. She notices the distance, her sister said quietly. Even if you don't? I ran a hand over my face, exhaling slowly. So this is her solution? I said, frustration creeping into my voice. To tell me to come to you? No, she said firmly. This is her last attempt to understand you. I looked at her sharply. What does that even mean? It means she's scared, she replied. Scared that maybe. You don't want her anymore? That stopped me cold. What? I whispered. She sees the way you look at your phone more than you look at her, she said. The way you sit next to her but miles away. The way you don't reach for her like you used to. Each word felt like a weight being placed on my chest. She doesn't think you're cheating, she added quickly. Not exactly, not exactly. I repeated, she thinks you've already left. Just not physically. I swallowed hard, because that one hurt. I leaned back slightly against the wall, trying to process everything. This is insane, I muttered. If she feels this way, why not just tell me? She tried, her sister said softly. I looked up. What do you mean? She brought it up weeks ago, she said. You brushed it off. Said you were just busy? Memory flashed, a conversation I'd barely paid attention to, her sitting across from me, trying to say something. And me checking emails while nodding. I felt my stomach tighten. I didn't think it was that serious. I admitted quietly. She did. The room went silent again, but this time, it wasn't tense. It was heavy. Honest. Double quotes. So, what was tonight? I asked after a moment. A test? Her sister hesitated. Then nodded. Double quote. Yes. I shook my head, letting out a breath. That's messed up. I agree, she said. But she didn't know what else to do. I looked at her, really looked this time. You knew I'd come? A small pause, then I wasn't sure, she admitted. But I had a feeling. Why? Because you're not a bad man, she said. You're just disconnected. That word again, disconnected. I stared at the floor. My thoughts racing. Everything suddenly made sense. The distance, the silence, the tension, not because something dramatic had happened, but because we had just drifted. Slowly. Quietly. Until we didn't recognize each other anymore. So what now? I asked. Her sister took a small step back, giving me space. That's up to you, she said. You can walk out of this room and pretend none of this happened. She paused. Or you can finally see what's right in front of you. I looked toward the door on the other side. My wife lying in bed, maybe awake, maybe pretending to sleep. Waiting. Just like she had been. For a long time, I took a deep breath. I didn't come here for anything. Inappropriate, I said firmly. I know, she replied. I came because I needed answers. And now you have them? I nodded slowly. Yeah, I did, and somehow. They were harder to face than any lie could have been. I reached for the door, then paused. Why are you helping her? I asked without turning around. Her voice softened. Because she still loves you. A beat. And because she's afraid you've forgotten how to love her back. That one stayed? With me, I opened the door and stepped. Out into the hallway, the light from her room faded behind. And me, and the darkness ahead didn't feel as empty anymore. It felt clear. For the first time in weeks, I knew exactly what I had to do, but knowing and doing are two very different things. I walked back toward my bedroom slowly, my heart heavier than before, but also more awake. More aware. I reached the door. My hand rested on the handle. This was another moment. Another choice. Another line. I took a breath and turned it. I stood there, my hand still on the door handle. For a second I didn't move, because I knew. The moment I walked in, everything would change, not just the conversation, not just the night. Everything. I slowly pushed the door open. The room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of the bedside lamp, and there she was, sitting up in bed. Awake. Waiting. Her eyes met mine instantly. No surprise. No confusion. Just anticipation. Like she had been listening for my footsteps the whole time. Well? She asked quietly, that one word. It carried everything doubt, fear, hope. I closed the door behind me and leaned against it for a moment, taking a breath. What did you expect me to do? I finally said, My voice wasn't loud, but it was heavy. She looked down at her hands, fingers twisting together nervously. I don't know, she whispered. I took a few steps closer, stopping at the edge of the bed. No, I said, firmer now. You had to know. You don't say something like that unless you're expecting something. She stayed silent, and somehow that made it worse. This wasn't a joke, I continued. So what was it? A test? A trap? Her shoulders tensed slightly. Maybe, she admitted. I let out a sharp breath, running a hand through my hair. That's messed up, I said, pacing a little now. Do you realize how wrong that is? I know, she said quickly, her voice breaking. I know it is. Then why would you do it? That question hung in the air, and for a moment, I thought she wouldn't answer, but then, because I didn't know what else to do. Her voice cracked, and just like that, the anger inside me paused, not gone, but shaken. I looked at her again, really looked. Her eyes were glossy now, her expression fragile. I've been trying to talk to you, she said softly. For weeks. I frowned. That's not true. It is, she insisted, finally looking up at me. You just didn't hear me. I opened my mouth to argue, but stopped because deep down, I remembered small moments, conversations I brushed off, times she started to say something. And I nodded without really listening, moments that didn't feel important at the time, but clearly, they were. You come home late, she continued. You sit next to me, but you're on your phone. You laugh at things I'm not part of. You answer work messages at midnight. Her voice trembled. I feel like I'm competing with a version of your life that doesn't include me anymore. That hit hard, harder than anything she had said so far. That's not fair. I said quietly, Isn't it? She shot back, tears forming now. Tell me the last time you actually looked at me. Not just glanced. Not just existed in the same space. Actually saw me. Silence, because I couldn't answer. Not honestly. She let out a shaky breath. I didn't think you were cheating, she said. I swear I didn't. Then what? I asked. I thought you were already gone. Those words. They landed like a punch to the chest. I'm right here, I said, my voice softer now. Your body is, she whispered. But you're somewhere else. I turned away for a moment. Trying to process everything. The room suddenly felt smaller. Tighter. The walls were closing in on all the things we hadn't said. I've just been busy. I muttered. That's what you always say, she replied, and it's true. I'm not saying it's not, she said gently. I'm saying you stopped making time for me. That difference, it mattered, and I knew it. I sat down on the edge of the bed, running my hands together. I didn't realize it got this bad, I admitted. That's the problem, she said. You didn't realize. Another silence, but this one felt different. Less like a wall, more like a mirror. So, you thought this would fix it? I asked after a moment. Telling me to go to your sister? Her face tightened with guilt. No, she said quickly. I didn't think it would fix anything. Then what was the point? I needed to know, she said. Know what? If you still respected us, she answered. I looked at her, confused. What? If you would cross that line? She continued. If you would actually go in there and forget about me. I shook my head. That's insane, is it? She asked, tears slipping down her cheeks. Because it felt like you were already forgetting me. That one broke something, not in anger, but in understanding. I exhaled slowly, my shoulders dropping. I didn't go there for that, I said. I know. She replied softly. I looked at her, surprised. You do? She nodded. I saw your face when you walked in, and? You looked confused, hurt, not guilty. A small pause. I knew then, she added. You weren't there for the reason I was afraid of. I swallowed hard. Then why does this still feel like everything's falling apart? I asked. Because it almost did? She whispered. Silence again, but this time, It wasn't empty. It was full of everything we had been avoiding. I never stopped loving you, I said finally. Her eyes lifted to mine, but I did stop paying attention, I admitted that truth. It hurt to say, but it felt necessary. She wiped her tears slowly. I didn't want to lose you, she said. I just didn't know how to reach you anymore. I nodded, and I didn't realize you were slipping away, I said. We sat there, facing each other. No distractions. No phones. No excuses. Just two people. Finally being honest. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For what? For tonight. For putting you in that position. For crossing that line. I took a breath. I am too, I replied. She frowned slightly. For what? For not seeing you sooner. That landed softly but deeply. A few seconds passed before she spoke again. Did you talk to her? She asked carefully. I nodded. Yeah, and she told me the truth, I said. Her expression tightened slightly. About me? About us. She looked down again. And was she right? She asked. I hesitated. Then, yeah, I said. Her eyes filled again, but this time she didn't look away. Then what happens now? She whispered that question. It wasn't about tonight. It was about everything. I leaned back slightly, thinking. We start talking, I said. Just like that? No, I admitted. Not just like that. It's not going to be easy. She nodded slowly. But we try, I continued. For real this time. A small pause. No tests, I added. That made her let out a weak, emotional laugh. Deal, she said. I looked at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, I moved a little closer, not rushing, not forcing anything, just closing the distance. And this time, she didn't pull away. The next morning didn't feel like any other morning. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. There were no raised voices. No slammed doors. No final words. Just silence, but not the cold, empty silence we had been living in for weeks. This one felt different. Fragile. Like something broken had been carefully placed back together, but not fully healed yet. I woke up before her, which wasn't unusual. But what was unusual was that I didn't reach for my phone. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling. Thinking. About last night. About everything that had been said. And everything that hadn't. I turned my head slightly. She was still asleep, or at least she looked like she was. Her face was calm, but there was something there. Something tired, like she had been carrying something heavy for a long time, and maybe she finally set it down for the first time in weeks. I didn't feel distant from her. I felt close, not physically, but emotionally, and somehow that felt more important. I got out of bed quietly and headed to the kitchen. The house was still peaceful. I started making coffee, something I hadn't done for us in a long time. Usually, I'd just grab something on the way to work. Quick, efficient. Detached. But today felt different. Today, I wanted to slow down. A few minutes later, I heard soft footsteps behind me. I turned. She stood there in the doorway, watching me. There was no tension in her face this time. Just hesitation. Morning, I said gently. Morning, she replied. Her voice was soft, careful, like she wasn't sure what version of me she was going to get today. And honestly, I wasn't sure either. I handed her a cup of coffee. She looked at it for a second, then took it. Thanks, she said quietly. We stood there for a moment. No rush. No pressure. Just existing in the same space. Together. Double quotes. We should talk, she said after a pause. I nodded. Yeah, we should. We moved to the table and sat across from each other, the same table where everything had felt so off the night before, but now it felt like a new place, a reset. I've been thinking, she began, wrapping her hands around the cup, about everything. Me too, I said. She looked up at me. I don't want us to go back to how things were, she said. Neither do I. Another pause. But I also don't know how to fix it, she admitted. I leaned back slightly. Exhaling. Maybe we don't fix it all at once, I said. Maybe we just start small. Small? She asked. Yeah, I nodded. Like actually listening to each other, putting the phones away, asking real questions, and waiting for real answers. She gave a faint smile. That sounds simple. It is, I said. But we stopped doing it. She nodded slowly. Yeah, we did. Silence settled again, but this time, it wasn't uncomfortable, it was thoughtful. I'm really sorry about last night, she said again, her voice softer now. What I said? What I did? It wasn't fair to you. I know, I replied. She looked down, expecting more, but I didn't add anything because I wasn't angry anymore. Just aware. I was scared, she continued. I felt like I was losing you, and I didn't know how to make you see it. I leaned forward slightly. You didn't lose me, I said, but you were right about one thing. She looked up. I wasn't really there, I admitted. Her eyes searched mine. I should have noticed, I added. I should have listened the first time you tried to tell me. Her expression softened. That's all I wanted, she said. To feel like I mattered again. You do, I said without hesitation, and this time, I meant it in a way she could actually feel. Another quiet moment passed. Then she asked, Did you talk to her? I nodded. Yeah. Her grip tightened slightly on the cup. What did she say? The truth, I answered. A small, nervous breath escaped her. Was it bad? No, I said. It was honest. She looked down again. She told me how you've been feeling, I continued. How long it's been building up. And you didn't know? She asked quietly. I didn't realize how serious it was, I admitted. But I see it now. That seemed to matter to her a lot. I didn't mean to involve her, she said. I just didn't know who else to talk to. I get that, I said. But we need to keep things between us moving forward. She nodded quickly. Yeah, I agree. Another pause, then she asked something I didn't expect. Do you think we almost lost everything? I didn't answer right away because the truth was, we did. We came close, I said finally. Her eyes filled slightly. But she didn't cry, not this time. I don't want to feel like that again, she whispered. Me neither. We sat there, letting that sink in, the weight of what almost happened, and the relief that it did, single quotes, day. Around noon. Her sister came into the kitchen. There was an awkward tension at first. Not hostile, just aware. She looked between us, trying to read the room. You guys okay? She asked carefully. I glanced at my wife, then back at her. Yeah, I said. We're working on it. She nodded slowly. Good, she said. That's all I wanted. There was no long conversation. No confrontation. Just understanding. Later that afternoon, she packed her things. It wasn't dramatic. No tears. No emotional goodbye speech. Just a quiet acknowledgement that her part in this situation was over. I think it's better if I give you two space, she said. My wife nodded. Double quotes. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For being there when I didn't know how to handle things. Her sister gave a small smile. Just don't let it get that far again, she said. We both nodded. Because we knew. She was right. When she left, the house felt different. Not empty. Just clearer. Like something unresolved had finally been addressed. That night, we didn't rush into anything. No expectations. No pressure. We just sat on the couch. Side by side. Close. But not forcing closeness. And for the first time in a long time, it felt enough. Not because everything was fixed, but because we were finally facing it. Together. She leaned her head slightly against my shoulder, and I didn't move, didn't check my phone, didn't get distracted. I just stayed. Present. Right there with her. And in that quiet moment, I realized something. Sometimes the biggest mistake isn't what you do. It's what you slowly stop doing. The conversations. The attention. The small things that make someone feel loved. We didn't lose those things overnight. We lost them gradually, and we almost lost each other because of it. But now we had a chance to get it back. Not perfectly, not instantly, but honestly, and maybe that was enough. Some relationships don't break in a single moment. They fade slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. And sometimes they come back the same way. Not with a grand gesture, not with a dramatic apology, but with small intentional choices made every single day. It had been a few weeks since that night. The night everything almost fell apart, or maybe the night everything finally came to the surface. And somehow, things felt different now. Not perfect. Not like some movie where everything magically fixes itself overnight, but real, honest, alive again. I was standing in the kitchen early one morning, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. The sunlight streamed through the window, soft and warm. It felt peaceful, the kind of peace you don't notice until it's gone, and then slowly returns. I heard her footsteps behind me, soft, familiar, this time. I didn't have to turn around to know she was smiling. "I see this is becoming a habit," she said playfully. I glanced over my shoulder. "What?" "You making coffee," she said, leaning against the counter. "For both of us." I smirked slightly. "Don't get used to it." She raised an eyebrow. Too late. There it was. That lightness. That ease. We hadn't felt that in a long time. I handed her the cup. Our fingers brushed slightly. And for a brief moment, neither of us pulled away too quickly. Not like before. We sat at the table together. No phones, no distractions. Just conversation. Real conversation. "So, how's work been?" she asked. I paused for a second, because this time I knew she wasn't just asking to fill silence. She actually wanted to know. "It's been busy," I said, "but I've been trying not to bring it home." She nodded. I noticed. That mattered more than I expected. "And you?" I asked. "How have you been feeling?" She smiled softly. "Better," she said. "Not because everything's perfect, but because I don't feel alone in it anymore." I leaned back slightly, taking that in. "I'm here," I said. "I know," she replied. "And now I can feel it. That difference. It was everything." Later that day, we decided to go out for a walk. Nothing fancy. Just a nearby park. But even that felt new. We walked side by side, the quiet between us no longer heavy. Comfortable, natural. At one point, our hands brushed again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I gently reached for her hand. She looked at me just for a second, then smiled, and held on. No words. No big moment. Just a connection. The kind we had almost lost. That evening, we sat on the couch like we had so many times before. But this time, everything was different. I wasn't distracted. She wasn't distant. We were just there, together. "You stayed," she said suddenly. I looked at her. "What do you mean?" She shifted slightly, turning toward me. "After everything," she said. "After what I did, what I said, you could have walked away." I shook my head. "I didn't want to," I said simply. "Why?" she asked. It wasn't a challenging question. It was vulnerable, honest. I thought about it for a moment. "Because I realized something," I said. She waited. "I wasn't losing you," I continued. "I was just losing focus on what mattered." Her eyes softened. "And you matter," I added. That made her smile. "Not the forced kind? Not the uncertain kind? A real one. The kind that reaches the eyes. The kind I hadn't seen in a long time." "I was scared," she admitted. "That night. I thought I had already lost you." "You didn't," I said gently. "But I almost did," she replied. That truth. We both felt it deeply. Days turned into weeks. And slowly, we built something new. Not from scratch, but from awareness. We started doing small things differently. We made time. Even when we were busy, even when we were tired, we talked. Not just about responsibilities, but about feelings, about thoughts, about things that actually mattered. Sometimes the conversations were easy, sometimes they were uncomfortable, but we didn't avoid them anymore, and that made all the difference. One evening we were sitting outside, watching the sunset, the sky painted in shades of orange and gold. She leaned her head on my shoulder again, comfortably, naturally. "You know what's funny?" she said softly. "What?" I asked. We almost lost everything. Not because of something big. She paused. But because of all the small things we stopped doing? I nodded. Yeah, I said. That's the part no one really talks about. It's scary, she added. It is, but also kind of beautiful, she said. I frowned slightly. Beautiful? She smiled. Because it means we can fix it the same way, she explained. With small things. That perspective, it stayed with me. Later that night, as we got ready for bed, I noticed something. There was no tension, no distance, no unspoken words hanging in the air. Just calm, peace. She looked at me as she turned off the light. Hey, she said. Yeah, thank you. For not giving up. I smiled slightly. Thank you. For fighting for us, I replied. She moved a little closer. Not rushed. Not forced. Just right. And this time, there was no hesitation between us. Because intimacy isn't just physical. It's emotional. It's presence. It's choosing each other. Again and again. As I lay there, staring into the darkness, I thought about everything. That one sentence, that one moment, that almost changed everything. Ask my sister. It sounded like a joke, but it wasn't. It was a cry for attention, for connection, for love. And I almost missed it. We almost lost everything. Not because we didn't love each other, but because we stopped showing it, stopped expressing it, stopped noticing it. But now we were different. Not perfect, but aware. And sometimes that's what saves a relationship. Not grand gestures, not dramatic promises. Just two people choosing each other every single day. If you felt this story, if it reminded you of something real, make sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced emotional distance like this? And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful real-life stories like this.